True story, this was going to be the top 10 worst rated games of 2023. I thought it'd be nice to tear some games apart from a change instead of being all nicey-nicey. Plus, videos with negative titles get more clicks, but they're not as helpful as game recommendation lists, which is what these videos are supposed to be. This is the channel to celebrate, not deflate, so in that spirit, I'm going to bring us all together instead of tearing us apart. Plus, it's February, the month of love, so let's all come together. I'm Rob from JestaThaRogue.com, and these are my top 10 cooperative board games. All the games on this list will be fully co-op, no team games, one versus many, or those with any kind of traitor mechanism. So let's work together to get to 3,000 subscribers as soon as possible by hitting that subscribe button. On with the list. Can you hear ticking?
Number 10.
We're off with a double bill, 2 games linked by universe and mechanism and can be combined together if played back to back. In Fuse, players are defusing bombs. To do this, they will draft dice and place those dice on their cards to match the patterns by colour and or number. Once they complete the pattern, they move on to the next one. When all cards are complete, they win. If time runs out before they do, they lose. Yes, it is against the clock, and it has mechanisms in place to encourage a less haste, more speed approach. For example, if you place the wrong die on one of your cards, you have to return all die on that card to the bag. There's no room for making mistakes when defusing bombs. There's more, but we need to look at Flatline too, which will go into what happens if one of those bombs goes off, dealing with the casualties. Here, players are playing dice based on their symbol rolled in order to complete lines and heal patients, while also dealing with new threats added each round that will require dice-based attention. This is played over several 1-minute real-time rounds. If you clear all the patients, you win, but if you run out of rounds or you build up too many red threats, you lose. Fuse is rated 7.0 on BoardGameGeek, with players enjoying its frantic gameplay, but can feel that some bombs can leave them without anything to do for a few rounds. Flatline is rated a slightly higher 7.1, with players again enjoying the fast-paced gameplay, but feel it's overly complicated and too long. Now, both of these games obviously have real-time dice placement, which mitigates the player that wants to try and control the game, but also they are fun and available for a cheap price. If I had to recommend one, it would be Fuse. If you don't like the theme, Pandemic Rapid Response also re-implements Fuse and is good, but not legendary.
Number 9.
I did want Marvel Legendary in this spot, but that one player wins more than the other player's mechanism most people ignore is against the spirit of this list. Enter Legendary account as Firefly, a similar system in a more cooperative game that also includes the ability to play through episodes of the TV show as a campaign. Players each play as one of the crew of the Serenity and use misbehave points to attack threats and scan the verse, and use shiny points to buy new cards. And if you've ever seen the TV show, you will know that the crew is not perfect. Players have flaw cards that trigger the negative ability of their character, but they're also good at their jobs, which is why you have talent cards that use that character's positive ability. On top of events to complete themed to the episodes, and side jobs to complete for a bonus, there are ship strikes. Again, if you've ever seen the TV show, the Serenity, the ship, is as much a member of the crew as its human inhabitants. Complete the scenario to win, but if all of the crew die, or Serenity dies, or you miss one of the main objectives, then you lose. Legendary account as a Firefly deck building game is rated 7.1 on BGG, with players enjoying the theme, especially fans of the show, but players are down on the difficulty and very down on the artwork. If you prefer Fox Mulder to Mal Reynolds, there is the X-Files version. For Aliens over Reavers, there is the Alien version. If you prefer intense handshakes over Hands of Blue, there is the Predator version. And finally, for now, you could swap a red strawberry for the red pill and go with the Matrix. Now, I really like this game and the show, but I did get rid of it in my I never play campaign games call of 2020. But it was fun solo. Well, at least we didn't talk about another Marvel game on one of my lists.
Number 8.
LCGs, or living card games, are expandable card games that remove the collectible element. There are plenty to choose from. I choose this one. In Marvel Champions, players play as heroes and their allies against villains and their minions. The villain will attack the player in the hero form and advance their scheme while the player in his alter ego form, and will try and complete the scheme to win the game. Players will attack the villain and minions when in hero form and will recover health when in alter ego form. Cards are played from hand by discarding other cards from your hand, which is a mechanism I really like. It leads to really difficult choices. Each villain provides a different challenge, and each hero not only plays differently but can be customised to play how you want. At the time of writing, there are about 50 heroes and about 40 villains and 4 campaign boxes, so there's plenty of content to be getting on with. I haven't played at least 3/4 of my content yet. Marvel Champions is rated an impressive 8.1 on BoardGameGeek, with praise for the theme and simple gameplay, but some consider it too simple compared to other LCGs, and many admit the buying for the game at this point is expensive. Also, a lot of people call this a deck building game, which it is not. What it is a fun game. It does have its issues. New characters come with their own new keywords, which come in their own rulebook, which every character has, and they all look the same. And the only thing stopping a quarterback player is you've got a hidden hand of cards, which means they could be a bit obnoxious. So let's get back to putting that particular player back in their place.
Number 7.
We've had a double entry of real-time dice games, now let's have another double entry of real-time card games. These are not connected, they're just very similar gameplay-wise. In Space Team, players have to fix malfunctions on a spaceship by collecting the right tool cards in their hand to match the tools required on the malfunction cards. To get the tools you need to ask for them, and they are passed person to person around the table. But they have silly names and pictures, which makes asking for them very difficult, especially as the malfunction doesn't show the tool by name. There are also anomalies that will have you switch chairs, decks and other crazy stuff. One has a player be sucked out the ship and they have to sit there waving their arms until everyone notices and they all pull them back in. Repair the 6 pieces of the spaceship before time runs out to win. Scream the game is similar in that you're collecting sets of cards in real time to complete scenes of the film before time runs out, or Ghostface kills a player. Ghostface can call a player on an app and give them a task to complete. If they don't, they either discard cards or even get killed. Space Team is rated 6.6 on Board Game Geek, with players enjoying the fast and fun gameplay but find that playing with the same people makes asking for the right tools too easy. Scream the game is rated a very nice 6.9 on BGG, with players enjoying the fast fun gameplay but not so much the fact it's run by an app. For more of my thoughts on Scream, check out my top 10 games for 2023 video. I enjoy this style of game, and I really enjoy that the quarterback player hasn't got time to tell everyone what to do. If they try, just pull them to one side and have a word.
Number 6.
I like word games, and I like giving creative clues in order to try and get players to guess something. So in another double entry, we have 2 games that do that. In So Clover, players have 4 square cards placed on the board, and players will write a word on each side of the board, trying to connect each pair of words with a one-word clue. These cards are then removed from the board, shuffled together with an extra random one, and the other players will try and fit them back on using the clues as help to put the cards back in the right place. The more they get right, the more points they get, and add all the players' points together to get your total score for the game. In Just one player has a word they can't see but the others can. They give a clue on the board and try to get that player to guess what their word is. But the writing players show each other their words first, and any words that match are rubbed out and removed. So too obvious and you'll probably get your word removed, but too vague and it won't be any help. If they get it right, they get a point. If you get it wrong, you lose a point. Try and get the most points after a number of rounds. So Clover is rated 7.6, with players enjoying the fun party atmosphere the game creates, while some seeing this as a pastime and don't like the points total scoring system. Just One is also rated 7.6 on BGG, with praise for the fun party word game, but many people believe there are many better options. I prefer Just One, even though I am really bad at it, but I do have a problem with So Clover. Many times people have given up trying to link both words with a single clue and just give a blatant clue for, ironically, Just One. But I do enjoy playing games like this, and playing Just One in Essen with 7 players in 5 different languages was a particular highlight. But there is just one word we haven't mentioned for a while now.
Number 5.
Okay, that's 2 entries of 4 games I've talked about, and I haven't mentioned superheroes at all. I need to put an end to that right now, but it's not Marvel or DC. In Sentinels of the Multiverse, players play as heroes fighting against a game-controlled villain in a particular environment to either victory or defeat. Each of these 3 types of decks is pre-constructed, and the gameplay is very simple. Firstly, the villain will play a card. Then the heroes will take turns playing a card, activating a power, and then drawing a card. Then finally, the environment will play a card, and it's back to the villain turn. Obviously, these cards are going to have different effects depending on who is fighting and where they're fighting, etc., dealing damage, putting up defences, and you know the kind of thing. Each hero plays very differently, each villain provides a different challenge, and each environment gives different threats as the battle goes on. A lot of characters are recognisable, such as Legacy, who is Superman, Wraith is Batman, and my favourite, Tachyon, is the Flash, Quicksilver, A-Train, Red Rush. Sentinels of the Multiverse is rated a positive 7.2 on Board Game Geek due to the thematic gameplay and fun co-op experience, but players are down on the fiddliness of some of the elements of gameplay. The digital version does all the math for you if you're into that sort of thing. Oh, it's worth noting the definitive edition from 2022 is rated a whopping 8.4 on BGG. The reason it's higher than Marvel Champions is that it's easier to teach and the cards are easier to play without additional teaching, but it is low down on the list because again, the only thing stopping the quarterback player is a hidden hand of cards.
Number 4.
From fake comic book superheroes to something completely different. Real comic book superheroes. In Marvel United, players play as heroes to defeat a villain in various locations. Here, players have a hero and a deck of cards and will use those cards to move around the various locations, rescuing bystanders, defeating thugs, performing heroic feats, damaging minions, and eventually, after doing enough of all that stuff, attacking the villain to defeat them and win the game. The villains are game controlled and will move around the board, causing havoc and trying to complete their evil scheme or KOing the hero. Each villain has their own deck, events that go onto locations on the board, and goals that will vary from villain to villain and will fit their character. The hero decks are mostly the same, but there are a few cards in there specific to them that will make each one feel a bit different to play. Marvel United is rated 7.6 on BoardGameGeek, with players enjoying it as a co-op game but are down on its simplicity and lack of customization. And while it's true that playing as the heroes don't make the game as much as they do in games like Marvel Champions and Sentinels of the Multiverse, the simplicity of gameplay and the vast number of challenges from the different villains make this a very fun game. But yes, it is only a secret hand of cards that is stopping one player from trying to run the game. I really enjoy playing this co-op, and it's my favourite of those pandemic style games where you have to put out fires while trying to defeat a big overall problem while on some form of timer. There's a reason this is one of my favourite games of all time, and while that's mostly because I really enjoy playing it solo, I do also enjoy it co-op. With 3 Kickstarters, it's not as if I'm short of content to play, even if it is an overwhelming choice you just can't escape from.
Number 3.
We've had one real-time dice rolling double entry so far on this list, but there's always room for one more. In Escape Curse of the Temple, players are stuck in said temple and need to work together to get out. In real time, simultaneously, players will roll dice to reveal new temple tiles, move on to those tiles and interact with them. If you roll a black mask, it is locked, but you can use a gold die to unlock 2 of your black masks, or 2 belonging to another player in the same room as you, so communication and cooperation is required. Some rooms have a magic gem space that takes gems from your depot, which is important because to leave via the exit tile, players need to roll 1 more key on their dice than the number of gems in the depot, so the fewer the better. To make things worse, there are 2 very negative things. Firstly, the tense soundtrack is divided into 3 phases. On the first 2, players need to get back to the start room before the gong sounds, or lose one of their dice permanently. Before the third one, on the 10-minute mark, all players must have left the temple, or all players lose. Also, when entering a curse room, players draw a curse that will have a physical impairment, like having to cover one of your eyes, or game-related ones, such as one that won't allow you to escape until dice are spent to remove the curse. Escape Curse of the Temple is rated 7.0 on BoardGameGeek, as players enjoy the fast-paced gameplay and heavy reliance on communication. Players that don't like it just don't like real-time games and or thought it was repetitive. Oh yeah, Escape Zombie City is similar, but you're being attacked by zombies. It's also fun but not as good. It's rated 6.7 on BGG, with players thinking the additional zombie action is too fiddly for a real-time game. From escaping a temple, to escaping a city, to escaping a room?
Number 2.
Now I've talked about 16 games in the previous 8 entries, I do spoil you. Now I'm about to give you a lot more value for money with a quick-fire quadruple entry. Here we'll take a quick look at some escape room style and puzzle co-op games. Those that you could resell, not those that you could throw away and watch the money in your wallet and the planet burn. Escape Tales is a series of games where players will solve puzzles to complete a story. As each of the adventures unfold, you follow an often dark, sad story with really nice components, puzzles and gameplay. Play through to get a positive or negative ending. The games in this series are rated between 6.7 and 7.2, with players enjoying the non-linear story but are confused by the often obtuse puzzles. Time Stories is a story-driven puzzle game, but it allows failure, replaying scenarios until an ending is reached by jumping back in time to rerun the scenario with some knowledge retained from the previous run. Play through to an ending to complete the scenario. Time Stories is rated 7.4 on BGG, with players enjoying the gameplay and varying themes from the expansions, but the cost of those expansions and the often repetitive 3rd and 4th runs of scenarios puts some players off. Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective sees players use newspapers and other thematic components to investigate crimes set in the Sherlock Holmes world to get as much information as possible to answer questions at the end of the game. The more you answer, the better you do. Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective is rated 7.6 on BGG, with players enjoying the deduction and immersive gameplay, while other players thought it was just boring. Finally, the Unlock series, where players use a deck of cards and an app to combine found items to work their way through a map of rooms to escape to get a star rating for how well they did. The cards are numbered and are combined by adding their numbers together, and the app will say what the result of that combination is. The Unlock games are rated between 7.0 and 8.0, with players enjoying the puzzles and fun game system, but are down on the reliance on an app. In all of these games, you're mostly working on several puzzles at the same time, so you can give the quarterback player something to do, keep them busy. I like the Unlock series of games the best out of all of these, but the good ones are really good and the bad ones are really painful. But they are available really cheap secondhand now, so you and friends can sit round a table solving puzzles, really get stuck in the trenches together.
And now, number 1.
Okay, we're at number 1 now, and there's no better theme for a co-op game where the people who actually had to live it really had to work together. In The Grizzled, players are trying to survive in the trenches of World War I and have 2 stacks of trial cards. One on the monument card and one on the peace card, and the goal is to reveal the peace card and have no cards left in hand without revealing the memorial card. To do this, players get a hand of cards from the top of the peace card and then take turns playing one into the middle of the table. The card contains one or more things: night, snow and or rain on the background, and a mask, shell and or whistle in the foreground, and the goal is to not play 3 of the same of any one of these. Now there are 3 reasons why this is much harder than it sounds. Firstly, the more cards you have when you drop out of the round, you'll move that number of cards from the monument stack to the peace stack, meaning you can have more cards to deal with, and it's pushing you further away from victory. Some cards have trap that add a random card from the top of the deck, which could end it all quickly, and some cards are hard knocks, representing mental and physical stress on the soldier, which will hinder them greatly. There are other things like speeches, allowing players to discard a card, good luck charms, which will discard cards from the table, and providing support, which will remove hard knocks from soldiers. And to stop the quarterback player, there are some limited communication rules. I think you're not allowed to talk about the cards in your hand. That's a rule I remember from when I played it. I can't find this rule in the rulebook. It's mentioned in the Board Game Geek ratings. I think I'm going crazy. The Grizzled is rated 7.1 on Board Game Geek, with players enjoying the tense and innovative co-op gameplay. Its detractors are down on the punishing difficulty and depressing theme, including quite harshly including the backstory to the game's creation in the rating, which if you don't know about, go and look it up. I really enjoyed this game, and it's the most co-op of all the games on this list in my opinion. The theme is harsh, helping the atmosphere of the game, and the decisions you need to make are very important, which makes for very tense gameplay. And that's my list. What are your favourite co-op games? Let me know in the comments below so I can look at them too. Remember to like, share and subscribe and all that good stuff. It really helps the video get out there. Also, for £1 or $1 you can join Patreon, where you get access to the Discord channel where we can talk about board games and other stuff, and we'll also might get that video count up to 3 a month. Find me on Threads, Insta, Twitch and YouTube at JestaThaRogue. Find the blog at JestaThaRogue.com. I've been Rob, aka JestaThaRogue, and I'll see you soon.